Rest is truly now becoming this act of radical rebellion.
Ready to rebel? Intentional living is all new with Caley Alyssa.
We're starting to rebel against the busyness culture and the way that things have been done because it's not working.
And you can rest assured our conversation is anything but demure as we take on life as we know it.
The structures and the foundations that our country has been built upon are starting to crumble. And, we're like, tear the shit down.
Touch on the trickier aspects of love.
You have to somehow transcend into the new paradigm, and it's got to be through love, loving everyone and everything. That's hard.
And get real about where change truly begins.
We're projecting this. If we're projecting this ugliness, then we need to look at the shadows of ourselves that we're seeing.
The only way that this is going to change is to remain lights, to remain beacons, to be lighthouses of hope, and to just literally focus on the positives and love.
On an all-new Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers. Before we get into the show,
I've got a question. Are you in optimal health? Well, if you're anything like me, I'm sure you're just as confused and overwhelmed with all the information, rules, and advice out there for living your best life. And to make matters worse, you don't know where to turn to get some clarity.
We have to ask ourselves, why is that happening?
But lucky for you, I've got someone that can help.
I made it a part of my mission. Well, I'm going to learn everything I can about health, happiness and healing and thriving and what that means to be an optimal human. And I'm going to just scream it from the rooftops.
My friend Samantha Lotus has got a new course that will break down everything you need to know to optimize your life and get your health journey back on track.
We have to move away from these rigid structures of like, you have to be this way and you have to do this way and you have to eat this and you have to follow this. And I don't think that's where it's at.
I know this because she has personally helped me wean off unnecessary medication. She's created a wellness kit for me so that I can optimize my own personal health goals. And she's opened my awareness to the work-life health connection.
That's where it starts.
She's so good at what she does. I know you'll be racing to sign up for her course. Just take a listen to her on episode 99 of Intentional Living, and you won't want to wait.
It's about finding what works for us and being in the trial and error and allowing it to be messy and imperfect and having a lot of grace and compassion with the journey.
Check out Optimum by Samantha Lotus. It's linked below. And if you use my special code, Courtney, you'll get $100 off the course.
It is that balance, and it's finding the right equation for you.
Don't miss out. Welcome to Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers, a podcast dedicated to those seeking a more fulfilled and purposeful life through thought-provoking conversation, spiritual exploration, and authentic connections. The intentional movement has begun, and if you found yourself here, you are a part of it. Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers starts now. Hi, Caley. Welcome to Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers. I'm so excited to talk about everything that's going to come through today, from our kiddos to your app to all the wonderful work and mentorship and embodiment practices you bring to women and others. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Courtney.
I'm really excited because I want to ask you about this. Yogic Sleep. What is that? Because I will tell you, this morning I woke up, could not open my eyes. I'm sitting here in my office. My kids have their little sleeping bags over here and stuff. And I'm like thinking, I don't know what yogic sleep is, but all I could think of is, God, I could use a nap. And then I even sent a friend a meme earlier today that said, I wrote it down because I was like, I wish I was a kid again. So everyone would be proud of me for taking a long nap. As a mom, you know how this is. Like, I want a nap. But I'm guessing that's not really what yogic sleep is. So let's go there. Let's start there.
Oh, so good. Yes. I mean, wouldn't that just be wonderful if we're like, we're going to go take a nap, and everyone's like, go do it. We'll make anything happen for you to get this nap in. Like, everyone shut up, turn the lights off, Oh God. Yeah. Mamas around the world feel that for sure. Yogic sleep is a little bit different than that. So
I figured.
It's known as many things right now in the scientific community. It's having this resurgence as non-sleep deep rest. So if you've heard that term, Andrew Huberman said that he coined the term. He actually didn't. It's from Amrit Desai, who's one of the OG founders of Yoga Nidra. His daughter is out there in the world right now doing amazing, amazing work. She's got an incredible book about Nidra as well. However, so yogic sleep, psychic sleep, non-sleep deep rest, it's got a million different names. It's an ancient practice. This practice comes from a very deep and rich lineage of yogic philosophy. And it is like sleep because your body gets the same effects of sleep. So if you are able to downregulate your nervous system in this practice enough to get to the place where your body feels like it's sleeping, it could give you the benefits of, a 4-hour nap. It could, but it depends on how much you can downregulate your nervous system and kind of drop into the practice. Now, the caveat being, the more you do this practice, the more you're going to be able to downregulate. And the more you do this practice, the more your body will produce melatonin, because we're working with your endocrine system and your pineal gland. So the more melatonin you have in your system, the easier it's going to be for you to fall asleep, and the longer you're going to stay asleep. So it does have the word sleep in it, but this practice is, you're not actually sleeping. It impacts the quality and the health of your sleep. But what we're doing is rather, we're finding a place. It's the fourth state of consciousness. So I'm teaching you how to access that space. And this is a space that we're losing now in our culture today. We're not meditating. We're not dropping into this, we're not laying down in silence and allowing our minds to drift and be creative. We're losing the access to this fourth state of consciousness. And so this is what Yoga Nidra does, is it brings us to this space where we're about to fall asleep, but we're not asleep, or we're about to wake up, but we're not up. So it's on either end, the front end or the tail end of sleeping. And in that liminal space is where we access our subconscious. That's where all of, these subconscious programmings are running in the background. And so that's where we can start to shift and change things. We can change our minds. We can plant things in there. We can look at how things are coded essentially and recode them. And so it's a powerful practice, and it can really change the way that we show up in the world, as well as it can really impact our sleep and our quality of sleep.
I love that. I mean, I didn't really realize that had a term, because that state right before you go to sleep or right before you wake up are so powerful. I've even heard people like Einstein and, inventors of our past would go down, would bring themselves, obviously practice a form of yogic sleep at that time to access their subconscious, to access this knowing that, they could bring these inventions to life, because that is where our creativity and connection lies. So so that is really truly what that fourth state of consciousness is, you're saying, is that little, like almost like that pre-dream state.
That's what that space is. And you're right. Most creatives, most famous artists, musicians, mathematicians, physicists, they know the reality of dropping into the space. They know what they're going to get. Problems are solved. Images are conjured. That's the space where you're like, aha, it's those moments. When we get into that space. And I know everyone's tasted that at some point in our lives, but I can bet you that it's been less and less as of late. I can bet you that especially moms, parents, entrepreneurs, we are less and less accessing that state, where that state's the place that we should be in on a daily basis, because it's truly the thing that's giving us the fuel for the entrepreneurship, for the business, for the next program or project or podcast or whatever the thing is. And so my mission, I am hell-bent to get people back to accessing the fourth state of consciousness and to experiencing that piece of themselves, and doing that through Yoga Nidra.
See, I didn't even know that that's what I was accessing. I keep a piece of paper right by my bed, because whenever I'm embarking on a project, just like you said, if I'm writing a new book, or if I'm about to take on someone else's book, or if I'm writing a script for TV or something like that, like the ideas just start firing right then. And so I have to, and I know I'll forget. I know I won't remember it. So I have to grab that piece of paper and write them down real quick, write these little notes so and that's gold, that state. Yeah. So why are we moving away from it? Why are we losing it?
Yeah, good question. First of all, it is gold, and we all know it's gold, and we all know how quickly the idea passes, and yet we still don't keep the dream journal by the bed, or we still don't have the journal in our meditation station so we can, when we come out, we're like, oh my gosh, write it down. We just don't do it. Why? I think because of it's a multifaceted answer, and one of the facets of this is it's entitlement and laziness, because we have things like ChatGPT, and we have all of these things that are, in our lives to make working in life more convenient. And so we are living in a convenience culture now. And accessing the fourth state of consciousness is not convenient. It takes time. It takes actually the consciousness, making the choice to do that, carving out the space in your busy, busy life to do it as well. And we are glorifying busyness in our lives now. It's how are you? I'm so busy. It's like a competition, of who's busier. And so it's this instant gratification, instant access, combined with the laziness of wanting things to be quick, combined with this, this culture that doesn't support our dropping into this state. It's this glorification of the busy woman, the woman who's got the 1,000 balls in the air, that bounces back right after pregnancy, that's back at her desk 3 weeks later. That's all of those things are not conducive to taking naps in the middle of the afternoon and going into your liminal space and seeing what fruitful things come of it. It's just not. So our society, our culture, our lifestyle is just not it's not supported by it. And so in order rest, I say this in the Academy of Yogic Sleep, I say it on social media, but rest is truly now becoming this act of radical rebellion. It's sad, but it is true. That's the state of where we're at right now.
But we're so wired not to do it. And this convenience culture is killing all creativity. I know we're not getting away from things like AI or the chat GPTs and things like that. And I wonder how we can use them to support us, but not rely on them. Like I have found certain ways now as an entrepreneur, as a single person running my business. I don't have a team behind this thing. I have found ways to support it, but I have resisted for so long using those conveniences because I know, and I am a creative. I just don't want to hand that over. There's just that intangible that you have when you bring yourself to it, when you bring your spirit to whatever you're doing. Yet people are out there writing books or creating courses or all this stuff using artificial intelligence. And it's where's the human intelligence? We have to remember that and get back to that creativity. Even our children. I mean, you have a little girl. I have 2 little ones. It's they're so used to they don't know how to be bored. They don't know how to be bored these days. I feel like it's we're losing that touch with our creativity and our imagination, where that's where our spirit lives.
Yeah. And creativity comes from being bored. I mean, when we're bored, that's when we come up with things. That's when we dream up and imagine, oh, I could do this. I can mix this with that. And then this thing happens, right? So we have intentional boredom in our household, and our daughter is not used to being stimulated all the time. If we're in a car, there's no screen, there's no iPad, there's no anything to distract her. We give her one dolly and that's it. She sits in the car and she holds her dolly, and she is perfectly content to stare out the window and hold her dolly. We've done that though since day one. That was our family agreement that she would not experience constant stimulation. And so she hasn't experienced that. She hasn't touched it yet. But the moment that they touch it, then it's this this need to have it because it's so stimulating and it's so the colors of the screen or the, whatever the thing is. So yeah, I think boredom does breed creativity. And that's what that going to lay down in a nap space or a meditation room or whatever, it's giving yourself time to be bored and to see what fruitfulness comes of that, right? Being bored with intention, connecting to something deeper than ourselves. And then we can receive whatever it is, prophecies, insights, all of those things. So yeah, I think truly guarding our boredom, guarding our creative space, guarding our creative minds. And to your point, with my clients, I use AI. I will transcribe our sessions and ask AI to make a summary of that client session and to pull out any action items for me. And so I do things like that will save time. But even still, when I look at the summary of AI compared to my notes that I'm taking when we're talking, it doesn't pick up what I deem a lot of times as the most important seeds or kernels of the conversation. And so I think what sets us apart from AI and from all of the technological advances, while important and we must use them and we will continue to, is our humanity. And in that vein, it's our love. We are love. We're love beings, and that special sauce is never going to go away, and AI will never be able to replicate that. And that's the thing we have to hold on to, is that sweetness about our humanity, and I think if we can hold on to that, which has proven to be quite a struggle, in our society at large right now, if we can hold on to that, then we can hopefully remain human and not be overtaken by the robots.
Well, I know. I mean, even talking to my husband about it, because he uses it a lot with his work. And it's like, he tells me sometimes, well, it can learn. It learns about you. It learns out. I'm like, no, it doesn't. It's one thing to do a description, like if you're a realtor of a home that you're putting on the market,
Mm-hmm.
like there's only so many things you really are going to say about it. But like really to do a caption or to get across that feel or that emotion. And that's, I think, what we've also lost as a society is tapping into our emotional body and our emotional state. We repress so much. That's why we're dysregulated. We medicate. We want the convenience. We want the quick fix. And we don't take stock of what is really bubbling up. There's such a wealth of knowledge if we can just listen to how we feel, how we move, what, the little things about our body that kind of fluctuate. I mean, that is just disregarded these days because of these conveniences.
Yeah. And that's why I am an embodiment coach. And that's why I started off as a yoga teacher and I quickly got into these other realms because yogic practices and physical movement is a part of embodiment. And also there are all these other pieces. And so working with my clients to develop what shapes your soul, what gives you this deep and creative and rich and nourishing life, and how do you form deep roots within community or in relationship and these other things. And that's why I also have that aspect and that feeds my soul and knowing that I'm doing some kind of good work in the world, right? And helping people to stay tethered to their humanity and their embodiment. And it's huge. But okay, as a movie producer, do you remember that movie? Was it Deus Machina or something? Deus Ex Machina, some movie about a female AI robot. That this guy, he's sent to this brilliant mind's house, and he gets to the house to help him with this project, and he meets this robot woman, and eventually, and she's behind a wall and contained, and he's not supposed to access her, and eventually the guy I think he ends up killing the main dude and trying to free this robot lady, and she entraps him and leaves him for death at the end of the movie and walks away. Her whole point was to get free. She didn't care how she had to do it. She made a relationship with this guy. She made him believe that she cared about him, and then she pieced out because she's a robot, and that movie it's so interesting. If anyone out there is listening and you know this, please reach out and something about Ex Machina or something like that. But it was just fascinating. It's fascinating to see, ideas of what could happen with AI and technology. But at the same time, one of my teachers was Guru Jagat. Do you know who she is?
No, I don't.
She was an amazing Kundalini yoga teacher, entrepreneur, badass female of her own right. She wrote multiple books, launched a clothing line, a record label, did all this amazing stuff in a very short amount of time. And she used to tell her students all of the time that technology is not going anywhere. And we have to teach our little ones how to use it and how to use it appropriately. And also, we have to be big enough to hold what that means. Our aura, our spiritual presence, our energetic stamp, we have to be able to hold and contain what the repercussions of using technology means for us in our life now on a daily basis, which means we have to do even more spiritual practices. We have to do even more dropping into the fourth state of consciousness, even more to counteract and to counterbalance what these technologies are doing to our humanity and to our lives. So yeah, she was a brilliant woman, and there were a lot of things that she predicted that's happened, and technology is one of those things that I see continuing to happen for us for sure.
Well, it's kind of like Westworld. I mean, that whole series was, it was who is real, who is a robot, all these things. I stopped watching. I didn't see the whole thing through, but from what I saw, it was a little bit of that. But how do we do more? I mean, how do we drop in more? We're busy. Like you said, we thrive on our busyness. We thrive on competing over who's busier or who's doing more. I mean, we do it in our own little household, let alone with our friends, with, our community. Oh, I'm busier than you. I don't it's a badge of honor that we wear. So how do we actually make the time and do more of this work? Because that is what's necessary. But I just had a guest on the other day. I'm like, okay, so now you're telling me I need my red light mat. I have to harvest my vegetables. I need to meditate for an hour, take an hour walk by myself. I need to cold plunge. I need to, the list goes on and on and on and on. It's it's overwhelming. It's where do I begin?
It's overwhelming. You're right. And, so why did you move across the country? With your family?
For a slower life. Yeah. For a different life.
Mm-hmm. Why are people homesteading right now? Why are people taking their kids out of school, out of the structure of what we've created for school in our society and homeschooling? Why are people doing all these things? Because we're starting to rebel against the busyness culture and the way that things have been done because it's not working. And we're starting to see that. So the structures and the foundations that our country has been built upon and our world really have been built upon are starting to crumble. There's cracks in the foundation and people are picking away at those cracks and we're like, tear the shit down. Some of us are standing on the bits that still remain, like, I will be here forever and always. And, so some of us are awakening to that. And the people out there who are the leaders and truly pioneering this space are the ones who can sift and sort through all this fucking information that's out there and make sense of it and then share that with others. And I believe the technologies that help us to do that are Kundalini yoga and embodiment practices and meditation practices. And it doesn't have to take you 5 hours a day. And when I say we have to do more of them, it means do it more frequently. Make space and room for more frequent. It could be 5 or 10 minutes or 20 minutes. I don't care, but choose a practice that's effective. What's going to be effective for you? Walking around the block? Maybe. But maybe it would be a powerful breath exercise that actually moves some energy in you and gave you some space to feel that energy rising up in your body, right? And then later, if you have the time for the 5-minute walk around the block, great. But, and this is why I love Nidra so much, because not only am I getting a nap, really, in essence, if I can really drop in, I'm getting the benefits of that. But I also am giving myself this creative, intuitive visualization time. And also, we didn't talk about this yet, but it's really, truly a healing practice. So my partner, who's a ex-military war vet, he has experienced Nidra in a very profound way. It's allowed him to work through traumas and memories and things that he holds in his bodies without having to relive them. And so for me, it's an effective, condensed practice that has all of these neurogenesis, all of these things that it does. And that's why I love the practice for me. But you have to find out what your thing is. I don't believe that we have time to do cold plunging and going to harvest our chicken eggs. And then, whatever the things are, we're doing our dry brushing and our contrast showers and our face massage, and wrinkles, and then, what the hell else that we got to do? So it's choosing the 1 to 2 things that are the things for you. Right. And then making those your things and doing it every day or as often as you can, and it's not for 5 hours or 3 hours. It's what works, what you can make work. So, and that's what we got to do, and as women, we lead our households, like whatever we do, the household will follow suit eventually. So we have to be the ones to stand up and to do these practices, if not for ourselves, but for our whole entire family, because nobody else is going to do that.
No, our energy dictates our household. How I wake up, how I start my morning dictates how everyone moves throughout their day. But it's really funny how you're saying that, like sifting through that information. I think that's so brilliant. I've been saying this a lot, probably the last 2 weeks. I'm like, I have such a wealth of information in me because I talk to people like you. I talk to experts. I talk to all these different wonderful people mentoring and bringing this knowledge to the world. So like now I feel like I'm, drinking out of a water hose and I want to make these changes in my life, but it's like, I don't even know where to begin, but we have to find what's right for us. And I also even love that you said, like, why did I move across the country? Why are we doing these things? I mean, literally everything you said. It's like, I've been looking at chicken coops. I've already looked at my cold plunge bath. I've talked about, I'm not a homeschooler. Like I could not homeschool my children for the life of me, but I'm like, the school system's not right. Even though I moved to a place with a wonderful school system, top in the country, kind of like, it's not, this isn't the way of the future. This isn't right. Like, what is the answer? And there are more and more people having these conversations and feeling that way. There are more and more people that are building these homesteads. I have the blackest thumb there is, yet I do truly. I know I'm laughing and joking that, I have to do all these things. It's all on my list to do. I want to start my garden. Like what we're putting in our food, the bioengineered ingredients, like it's just, we've gotten so far away from our humanness and what really nourishes us, mind, body, soul. It's actually scary sometimes.
Yeah, it is. And we see things like, you're right, there's biohacking, there's homesteading, there's,
much.
like which which rabbit hole do we want to jump down, really? For me, it's like, yes, I want my body to live. I want to be around for my daughter, but really, like, I need this in order to do that. I need both things in order to do that. But there's this man, John Trudeau, and I think he's passed now, but he was an American Indian activist, artist, poet. His whole family was murdered once he started getting into this, and you can research him. There's not quite a lot about him out there in the world. He does have some stuff on Spotify, but I think a lot of his stuff has been sort of like suppressed. But his message is any coherent, free-thinking society would not be living the way that we're living. And that we are truly, our minds are dysresonant and we are not healthy, because look at what we're producing. Anything that is out here in the world, we have all produced with our thought, and we have all agreed to on some level. Like whatever exists in the world, we have all agreed to on some level. War, famine, death, rape, murder, all of it. On some level, we're agreeing to it because it exists. And so everything that he shares is about freeing your mind, becoming a radically free thinker, not allowing the government or the school system or whatever to determine the way that you're showing up in the world and the choices that you're making with the food that you're eating or the products, the beauty products you're putting on your skin. It's thinking and thinking for yourself. And a lot of the issue we have with thinking is our brains aren't functioning because we have too much heavy metals in our brains. We have too many, all of the things that are stopping us from living and being our healthiest and having the clearest free thinking minds. We are just being suppressed and suppressed and suppressed and suppressed. And so truly it's like waking the fuck up, taking hold of your own health and your own life and your family's health in your life, looking at the foods you're eating, looking at your day and how you're structuring it, the world that you're creating, because that's what we have control over. We don't have control over anything else, sadly. We've got Aubrey Marcus out there, like comparing Oreos here in the US to Oreos in Europe, and like the 1,000 poisonous ingredients that we're just pumping into them because why? We don't know. But we can only guess, and maybe we'll never know. Right. And so truly the truth of it is taking charge of your home and your household, being a leader, women out there, mothers out there, being a leader for your home and your household, and doing what you know intuitively is right and good for you, and questioning what's not, and thinking, using your brain to think. And that's why practices like meditation and Kundalini and Yoga Nidra help you to become more of a free thinker and to free your mind. So it's like, man, we're talking about a pandemic. We're in it. We're like in a whole nother realm of it, And yeah. I really hope that enough of us wake up to come out of it.
Well, it's almost, almost when we're getting into conversations like this, which are so fascinating. And I had no idea that we were going to go here today. Like I said, I keep these as intuitively flowing as possible and let's see what comes up. But, I have these conversations offline all the time with my closest friends and family. But it's kind of like, there are the powers that be that are like orchestrating all this. And it's like this power, it's almost like this power trip. And it's constantly, it feels very conspiracy theorist, but it's not. It truly isn't. When you start to dig in and you start to learn more, it's like, I understand that phrase so much now, ignorance is bliss. Because the more I know, it's just like, wow, we are screwing things up. We are screwing up ourselves. Like, why are we doing this? I mean, I went to journalism school. I used to be a news junkie. I would watch the news 24 hours a day. Like, what am I doing to myself? Finally, I stopped it. And it's like, oh, no wonder why I had depression and anxiety. No wonder why we're feeding these. And I have, friends that are constantly will come up to like our little dance group or this or that. And they're like, well, this person was this and this happened and this, all these scary things. And I will take them aside sometimes. I'm like, you understand there's money and agenda behind everything you're listening to. And even when we know that, it's like, it still is so seeping into our consciousness that like we start to believe it. And I have to kind of shake them like, get out of this. If it bleeds, it leads is the mentality. They're trying to keep you hooked into this thing. Or like my parents, they go to sleep watching the news, which means they're sleeping, listening to that on repeat. I mean, it's like a hypnosis. And it's like, let's get we need to be free thinkers. We need to kind of question everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so true. But I think the most important thing in that questioning of everything also is to remain a light. Like with the war that's happening and with this crisis in Palestine that we're experiencing right now between Israel and Palestine and everything else out, in our sphere that's happening, if we get wrapped up in the darkness and if we focus on the darkness, that is what we will proliferate. That is what will continue to happen. And the only way that this is going to change, any of this, is to remain lights, to remain beacons, to be lighthouses of hope, and to just literally focus on the positives and love. I wish I had the book here. I just finished this book. You should read it. And anyone out there, get this book and read it. It's so radical. It's called the fifth sense, or the five senses, something like this. The fifth extra sense. I'll figure it out and I'll send it to you. It's this woman in San Francisco who wrote this book. I think it's Star Fox or Star something is her name. But this book is about this dystopian society. There's two versions, A and B. A lives in what used to be known as San Francisco. They're living at one with the earth. They've torn up all the asphalt. They grow their own food. The water systems are all connected. Everything's beautiful, perfect. They live by the elements and the earth. The other is down in the South, Los Angeles, California, or what was, completely dry and barren desert lands. No one can have water. The government owns the water. There are people being bred for things that we can't even imagine. If we let our mind go there, maybe we could. And, it's just juxtaposition of what we're heading towards and what could be. And the South invades the North, and they try to take over their water, and they try to ruin their lands. And the North wins without any weaponry, without any bombs, without any generals or army, because of love, because of their humanity. Every single soldier they meet, doesn't matter if they kill their brother standing right there next to them, they offer them a place at their table. You are welcome to join us. Come, live with us, eat our food, drink our water. You never have to be told you can have or not have again. You never have to be anyone in charge of you again. Like, you can be a free person here. No matter what happened, they just committed to this. We are going to offer these military members a place at our table. And they just stayed, no matter what happened, how atrocious the war crimes were. And that eventually broke them down, and they eventually won. And this book just gives me hope, because it shows us, and it's, of course it's a fiction book, but it shows me and it shows us that through our humanity and through our love, that's the only way we can win. And if we keep doing things the way that we're doing things, it's just keep doing what's been happening, which is war after war after genocide after genocide after just thing after thing of, awfulness. So we have to do things differently. And I think we're starting to. People are starting, and it's with the homesteading and homeschooling and the biohacking, the face massaging, but we're starting to get there in some way, each uniquely our own path. But my hope is that it just continues to get deeper and deeper and more, and that more people choose this path. And I think the Gen Zers are really helping us a lot when it comes to that. You look at their activism right now out there in the world, and I'm just like, man, I'm cheering them on from afar, because they're showing up for us right now and for everybody. And it's really a beautiful thing to see it.
Well, as a mom of littles too, it's like we can only hope. I mean, I don't feel like we are free. Truly, I don't feel like, I know we're in the home of the free. We're not. We're not free to live like this, and I think you're onto something. I do agree. We are in a period of mass awakening. These conversations are happening more. People are, like you said, making these changes in their life. And so I think the more positive the change is, the faster it grows. At least I hope. And the love thing is so right on. I mean, I guess I've channeled this. I've been told I've been channeling this all along, that this has been my mission, is to actually help spread this message of love, which is so funny to me. It feels so foreign to me, because it's like, I'm not that love, oh, let's all love each other kind of person. I've never been that. So it's really funny that this is like, I'm constantly having conversations and learning about how bringing love to the table truly does raise the vibration of everyone. It raises the consciousness of everyone. And it's backed by science. Like, love is truly the answer. And it feels very epic right now as I'm saying that. I have lightning going on in the background. We got a storm going on. It's like, this conversation feels very epic to me. But yeah, we have to lean into love. But to me, that's also leaning into less control and more people of allowing allowing people to live their life and have compassion for one another, to live as they feel, as they see fit for them, because we can't tell everyone else how to live their life. We can't.
Yeah, I think when you say love, and this is going to ruffle some feathers, but when we say love and what that means, and if we're going to transcend what we're experiencing in this lifetime, love means everyone and everything. Love means everyone and everything. The crack junkie on the corner shooting up, the rapist and murderer and, war crimes and love means to everything and everyone, because every single human being on this planet is an aspect of God, is an aspect of source, of divine, of whatever you want to call it. We are all soul embodied. And until we can see that, no matter the atrocity committed, until we can see some flicker of divinity within every single being here on this planet, until we stop damning them and praising them, it's never going to happen. And so love has to be an all-encompassing love where we see the blessed, the blessed in every single thing. And that's hard. That's hard. Yeah. And so, and that's the work, man. And Ram Dass was on that train. He was doing that kind of work and spreading that message in the world. And, that's what I'm trying to cling to. And it really does. It gets hard when we put ourselves like, well, they're doing that and that's not good. And, when we get into that dualistic, it's like right and wrong, black and white, good and bad. And when we get into that mindset, that's the old. And we have to somehow transcend that and get into the new paradigm. And it's got to be through love, loving everyone and everything.
Well, I think that's where the power of the mother comes in, because mothers are love.
Yeah. Yeah. Unconditional. No matter what.
Love. Maybe not.
That's right.
Maybe we haven't all experienced mothers that are loved, but like that is like the essence of what mother is.
That's
Mother
right.
Earth, mothers. So when we're talking about these things, this is a heavy lift, what we're talking about, to change society, to change the trajectory of our existence, essentially. So how do we do that? It comes back to that overwhelm. Well, the first step is in our home with our children. How do we change it for our children? I want a different world for my children.
You change it for yourself.
We have time. Yeah, we have to change it here first.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You are the example first. So you loving on your body, you changing the way you talk to your body when you look at yourself in the mirror, not picking out all of the things that are wrong, your squinty eye, the flub sticking over your pants, like looking at your body. Who does this really well is Paul Selig. He's a channel. And he channels soul or spirit. And he's got a couple meditations in his books that are so beautiful to see your body in its perfection, in its perfect form. It doesn't matter if you're missing a limb or have a blemish or whatever the thing is, but seeing the majestic, magical reality of this thing that you are living in and seeing yourself as perfection, because you are. The moment you came out of your mother's womb, I mean, the perfection of humanity and of a human body and of a soul embodied. And until we can start to change the way that we see ourselves physically as mamas and start loving on ourselves so hard and talking to ourselves like we would talk to our children, then we will start to have a different experience in our lives. With our children will see our relationship with our partner will be better. Our romantic partners, our husbands and wives and all the other things, that we can be now, that will be better. And the children will see that. And their relationships will change from that. It all starts with the mother. You're right. The mother is the seed and the kernel of where this is headed. And this is, we feel this. Collectively, the world knows this right now. And there is some friction, because this is not how things have been done ever. And so this is going to be a massive shift, but it's coming, and I feel that it's coming. There's another book out there called The Power by Naomi Alderman. Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay,
You're saying all these books I haven't heard of yet. No.
It was like a book club we're starting here, but this book is about that. It's about women rising to power and men and the patriarchy disseminating, and how that also shifts out of balance eventually. Right. And so the importance of there being some kind of reciprocity and of not female over male, one being better than the other, but how are we doing this together? How are we doing this together? The mother, yes, is vital and important, as is the father. As is the father. The father is the structure in the container, and the mother is the fluid that can flow freely in that container. There's so much There's so much I think that we're missing when we do that, when we put male against female. You know, that we are both so good at different things. But back to your point, what women are really fucking good at is running our household.
Well, there's a lot of talk right now about women rising to power and the divine feminine, and there's a big push towards that. And I literally had this conversation, I think it was yesterday or the day before, with another guest, that we can't ignore the masculine. We can't, the masculine is the container for the feminine to flourish, essentially. Like we have to have both. And that's why sometimes I kind of get weirded out by saying, oh, I'm a feminist, or being like labeled in that state, where a lot of the times, a lot of the things I talk about are very feminist based. Yet I think it has a bad, it's a name with a connotation that like, it's like rage against the men. And I don't believe that at all. There has to be that dualistic, we exist here together. We make life together for a reason. So we have to create that container where both are safe. Yet we've just been so in the masculine overwhelmed for so long that it's like this huge push for the feminine to show up, that it's just kind of like, it's almost like we have to like unbalance it to come back to balance.
Yeah. Well, there's masculine energy behind that unbalance, right? Behind the women coming back, or the feminist movement, like you said, there's a stigma around it, and that there's a masculine energy behind that, and there's an aggression behind that. And so that's not really the way of the feminine. Our way is a gentle, loving approach. Yes, we're powerful in that. Yes, we have strength in that, but we don't have to force. And that's our magic. We don't have to force. And so the forcing is still the remnants of the patriarchy. It's still that's like ingrained. It's so deeply ingrained in us. It's hard to get it. It's hard to tease it out. But it's happening. It is happening. And I think everyone feels that happening. And maybe there will be another unbalance of more feminine over masculine. And then maybe we'll finally figure it out. Who knows? Hopefully we just figure it out, if we're going there. That's the goal. Yeah, that's the goal.
Well, you mainly work with women to embody this, right?
Yeah. I started working with women well back in the day. I had a program called Make Wealthy Moves, and I helped women launch service-driven wellness businesses. I helped them with their concept, their social media, their marketing, their strategy, all of that kind of stuff. And I was good at it, but honestly, I didn't create that business. I did it because people came to me and said, I want you to help me with this. And so I was like, okay, sure. And so then I just formalized it. But my heart and soul was like, yeah, this is my zone of genius, but it wasn't my zone of joy. And so I had to find out what my zone of joy and genius was. And that is working with women on cultivating practices that develop their soul. I want to work with a woman who wants to find the depth and more richness to life, who is interested in exploring the fourth state of consciousness and really the capacity and what's possible for her life and her mind. And so that's really what lights me up, is those types of practices, those rich, deep, soul expanding practices. And yeah, I can help people launch a business. One of my clients is doing that right now, and I'm helping with her, but I'm also working on the other bits and pieces. And so that's what lights me up in a big, big way now. And so I only take on 4 clients at a time, because it is a lot of energy for me. So it is a piece of what I do, and also fills me up so deeply, but it's not something that I'm allowing to be my everything, which I love. It keeps it special.
So how do you take someone into that, really developing that inner knowing and that their connection to that fourth state of consciousness and their soul embodiment?
Yeah. Well, it depends on the person and where they're at. It depends on what they've experienced and explored in their life. But it is a practice of looking at different aspects of them. So we look at the physicality of them. That's a piece of it, and their personal living space. And we look at the relationships in their life, the way that they're relating. And that's a big reflector of the work that needs to be done internally. And then we look at their mindscape, their mind space, what practices they're doing in order to, keep their cognition and all of those types of things. And then the soul realm. So we're looking at a bunch of different aspects and introducing practices at different stages, depending on what's sticking, what's working, and, where we're seeing progress.
Well, I love that you say that you're looking at your relationships as because they're projecting back to us what we need to work on. And that goes back to the conversation that we were just having about what's going on in the world. Like we've created this, we're projecting this, we're projecting these things onto us. And I think that's what we have to realize is like, if we're projecting this ugliness, then we need to look at our dark, like what the shadows of ourselves that we're seeing in humanity so that we can heal those and change and meet it with love.
Oh yeah, that's the biggest work. I call these our blind spots. So my clients and I have a sheet, each client, their blind spot sheet that we keep track of. You know, it's those darknesses that are illuminated that they didn't realize were impacting their living experience, you know, and those things come up. It's the things that we have no clue. And it might be a giant, massive boulder blocking the way, but we can't even see that it's there. And so a lot of the work I do is illuminating those blind spots and helping them to become aware of, oh, wow, this is impacting me. And not only that, but I created this boulder and this was here because maybe at some point in my life, it was helping me in some way, but it is not helping me anymore. And I got to blow the thing up now. I got to get rid of this thing. And so that's the big piece of the work that we do is figuring out what are those blind spots, where all are those boulders, and how do we blast through them and, you know, create more space, more room.
And it's so much more powerful when you can do it with someone like you to like hold that space, walk you through it, help you see it, because it is hard. It's hard to take those blinders off for ourselves sometimes, or it just feels too big. Just kind of like I've talked about a lot in this conversation. Sometimes it's that overwhelm. Yeah.
Yes. And I work with my own mentor and coach as well as my own therapist. I have people in my corner helping me to do these things too. It's impossible to do on your own. It's just not, we can do some work on our own, but really and truly, we have to have mirrors out there reflecting for us. We have to, because we can only see what we can see. And that's like living in an echo chamber, you know, and if we want to grow, we gotta have some reflectors out there showing us the reality. You know, we can only see, we're wearing our lenses. They're colored based on our past experiences. And that's it. That's all we got. So we need to expand that and really get support around that. It's a huge, huge part of being a human.
Well, and we have to have the desire to do it, like you said, if we want to grow. So many people, I don't think, want to. Yeah. For whatever reason. There's a myriad of reasons why you wouldn't want to, but we have to want to. We can't force anyone into these changes. That these are big changes that we're talking about. So you have to really have a desire to go there.
Yeah, it's scary. I mean, it's comfy to stay the same. It's comfortable. We know it. We know, even if there are things that are not nice in our current reality, we know them. They're familiar. And so it's safe in some way, you know, and so to move beyond that feels untethering. It could be terrifying, you know, and so having someone there to support you along that process and to make sure that you feel safe and seen and heard and loved, you know, to do that work is crucial. Yeah. And, you know, the teacher will peel when the student is ready. That's so true. So when you're ready, the universe will present the next step for you.
So true. So how do you become our teacher? How do you become our mentor? And how do we follow along with you?
Yeah, man, so many ways. I would say if you're just kind of, you know, exploring this realm and this is all maybe brand new to you, I've got a free YouTube page. Jump on there. I've got some nidras on there. I've got some practices on there. And if you're ready to take a little bit more on and have a regular practice, download my app. It's just Caley Alyssa, my name, the Caley Alyssa app. Tons of meditations, tons of yoga nidra, tons of embodiment practices, Kundalini yoga and otherwise. It is so cheap. I think it's like $100 a year, something like that. So when you think about it in terms of like a monthly yoga pass or whatever, like it's nominal. So just get it, download it. And that is a great place. We have a live community page. You can ask me questions. I can give you support on there. That's a good place to start. And then if you want to dive even deeper, please just reach out to me directly. Like I said, I only take on 4 private clients. So this is something that, you know, it depends on my client load at the time and what my capacity is. But I would love, I do have a wait list. I would love to work with you if you're ready for this. So please reach out. I'm here to support you. And if you're interested in Nidra specifically, then check out the Academy of Yogic Sleep, and that's .org. So I run 2 training programs a year to teach anyone and everyone how to use Yoga Nidra as a tool in your business, in your life. So we've had doctors, we've had therapists, we've had breath workers, we've had shamans, we've had yogis, we've had people across the board coming to learn this technique. Ex-military, we had 2 ex-military men. One was a pararescue man in our course the last session. So people are showing up and realizing that this is something that they can use to weave into whatever it is, their career that they're doing. So if that's you, if you're interested in learning more about the practice of Yoga Nidra, how it works, what it is, how to facilitate, how to guide, please check out the Academy of Yogic Sleep. Our next training program will be open in the fall.
I love it. Thank you so much. This was such a great conversation. Now the thunder and storm has stopped. Now that we've gotten a little bit lighter, it's
perfect timing.
Like a perfect soundtrack to this conversation. I couldn't have planned it any better. But thank you so much, Caley. This was such a beautiful conversation.
It's such a pleasure. Now I'm going to go, feed my sourdough starter and all the things.
Exactly. I want to do that though. I really do. It's so funny.
I do too.
I make a joke about it, but I truly do. It's just like, can you give me one extra day in the week to do all this, please?
I'm going to make that happen. When I do, I will send you a bit of my starter and we can do this together.
Exactly. Love a group starter. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And maybe we will meet up soon in Oregon. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
And that's it for today's Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Caley Alyssa, for the beautiful, big, bold conversation all about returning back to love. That, in essence, is what we have to do to make these big shifts we're talking about. If you want to work with Caley, I'll put all the information in the show notes below. And as always, you can find Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers and Intentional Media on our website at CourtneyMyers.com. That's where you find our books, our courses, and everything else we have coming out soon. I'll talk to you later. Bye.